Hello students, in this presentation I will discuss about DNA replication. Living organisms perpetuate their kind or increase their number through reproduction. The reproduction may be simple duplication like cell fission as in bacteria, or the reproduction may be through complex modes of sexual reproduction as in higher plants and animals. In all cases, however, reproduction entails the faithful transmission of genetic information of parents to the progeny. Since the genetic information is stored in DNA, the duplication or replication of DNA is central to all of biology. Each time a cell divides into two daughter cells, all the DNA molecule must be duplicated or replicated. The process by which a DNA molecule produces its identical copies is described as DNA replication. It is a type of self-duplication or self-reproduction of DNA where two daughter molecules are formed from a single DNA molecule. Theoretically, three possible modes of DNA replications are possible. The first is the dispersive replication. Here, the two strands of DNA break randomly and produce several pieces. These pieces replicate and reunite to form new daughter molecules. These new DNA molecules create a mixture of old and new nucleotide scattered along the DNA chains. The daughter molecules can be described as hybrids. This mechanism is not accepted nor proved experimentally. The second method possible is the conservative replication. After replication, one daughter DNA contains the two original strands of parent, while the other daughter molecule contains two newly synthesized strands. This method is also not accepted. The accepted method of DNA replication is the semi-conservative type of replication. This method of DNA replication was proposed by Watson and Crick because of specificity of DNA pairing. As we know, the adenine always pairs with thymine and guanine always pairs with cytosine. Because of the specificity of base pairing, the sequence of bases along one chain automatically determines the base sequence along the other. Half of the DNA is conserved in semi-conservative type of replication. That is, only one strand is synthesized and the other half of the original DNA is retained. The evidence for semi-conservative type of replication was provided by Michelson and Stahl using the heavy isotope N15 of the nitrogen. As we know, the purine and pyrimidine bases in DNA contain nitrogen. Thus, the DNA of cells grown on medium containing heavy isotope of nitrogen, that is N15, will have greater density than the DNA of cells grown on medium containing the normal nitrogen. So Michelson and Stahl grew E. coli on culture medium containing the heavy isotope of nitrogen, that is N15, for many generations. So that the nitrogen present in DNA bases of these cells was the heavy isotope of nitrogen. Then the DNA was extracted and its density was determined by ultracentrifugation on a cesium chloride gradient. So where they got a peak which was for the heavy isotope of the nitrogen. Then they transferred the E. coli to a medium containing normal nitrogen. after allowing the cells to grow in presence of the normal nitrogen for varying period, the DNA was isolated from cells, and after one generation of growth, they had a density halfway between the density of the heavy and light DNA. So they got only one peak corresponding to the heavy light molecule. This intermediate density, usually referred to as hybrid density, has two heavy light hybrid molecules. That is, one strand is labeled with the normal nitrogen and the other strand was labeled with the heavy isotope of the nitrogen. At the second generation, they got two strands containing the light nitrogen and the other two strands having the hybrid molecule containing the heavy and light molecules. So they got two peaks, one peak for the light molecule and one peak for the hybrid molecule, that is the heavy and light molecules. These findings can be readily explained on basis of semi-conservative replication of DNA. The DNA from E. coli cells grown on the medium containing heavy isotope of nitrogen had the heavy isotope in both the strands. Therefore, it was heavier than the normal DNA. When these E. coli cells were grown in the normal nitrogen, each of DNA molecules would have one heavy and one light strand. Therefore, this DNA had a peak of intermediate density. Now we will discuss about the enzymes that are required for the replication. First is the DNA polymerase enzyme. This is the chief enzyme of the DNA replication. This enzyme was discovered by Kornberg in 1956. All the DNA polymerase requires a DNA template strand, a short primer and a free 3' OH in the primer. So the DNA polymerase needs a DNA template. The DNA polymerase does not contain sequence specificity. That is, the enzyme requires a DNA template chain whose base sequence dictates the synthesis of a complementary base sequence in the strand to be synthesized. This synthesis takes place via the DNA base pairing requirement, that is ATGC requirement. The DNA polymerase also needs a primer, that as the DNA polymerase cannot initiate the synthesis of DNA change. It has an absolute requirement of a free 3' OH on a pre-existing DNA chain. DNA polymerases can only add nucleotide to the free 3' OH group of pre-existing primer. The DNA also needs the 4 deoxynucleotides, that is deoxyadenosine triphosphate, deoxythymine triphosphate, deoxyguanosine triphosphate and deoxycytosine triphosphate, which are the building blocks of the DNA. The DNA polymerase add one nucleotide at a time to the free 3' OH of the primer and extend the primer chain in 5' 3' direction. DNA polymerase is actually an aggregate of several different protein subunits, so it is often called a holo enzyme. This holo enzyme also has the proofreading activities so that it can make sure that it has inserted the right base, and this also has a nuclease activity, that is it removes the nucleotide so that it can cut away any mistake it might have made during the replication. So it removes the wrongly incorporated nucleotide in the DNA molecule. There are three different DNA polymerases, that is polymerase 1, polymerase 2 and polymerase 3 have been identified and studied in E. coli. Similarly, four DNA polymerases called the alpha, beta, gamma and delta have been identified in several different eukaryotes. DNA polymerase, this enzyme was first purified by Kornberg in 1956, hence it is also called Kornberg enzyme. This enzyme has three activities which appear to be located in different parts of the molecule. The first is the polymerase activity, which catalyzes chain growth in 5' 3' direction. It also has a 3' 5' exonuclease activity, which removes mismatch bases. So this activity is also called as a DNA proofreading activity. An exonuclease is an enzyme that degrades nucleic acids from the ends of a DNA, as opposed to the endonuclease, which degrades the nucleic acid by making the internal cuts within the DNA. The DNA polymerase 1 also has a 5' 3' exonuclear activity, which degrades the double-stranded DNA. This is also called as an excision repair. It removes the segments of DNA damaged by ultraviolet light and other agents. The second type of DNA polymerase is DNA polymerase 2. This enzyme repairs the DNA damage. It has 5' 3' polymerase activity, and it has a 3' 5' exonuclease activity. The third and most important DNA polymerase is DNA polymerase 3. This enzyme is responsible for the replication. It has 5' 3' polymerase activity, that is it catalyzes the chain growth in the 5' 3' direction, and it also has a 3' 5' exonuclease activity. The DNA polymerase 3 is a complex enzyme containing 7 different polynucleotides. The next enzyme is the topoisomerase. These enzymes can change the topological form or shape of the DNA. It is responsible for initiation of unwinding of the DNA. The tension holding the helix in coiled and supercoiled structure can be broken by nicking a single strand of DNA. DNA type topoisomerase introduce a nick on only one of the DNA strands. This allows the molecule to rotate around the phosphodiester bond on the opposite strand. The topoisomerases introduce negative coils and relieve strains in the double helix at either end of the DNA molecule. Next enzyme is the helicase. It unwinds and unzips the DNA helix by breaking the hydrogen bonds between the base pair, thus allowing the two strands of DNA to separate. The two strands very much want to bind together because of their hydrogen bonding affinity for each other. So the helicase activity requires energy in form of ATP to break the strands apart. The next enzyme is the primase. It is a part of aggregate of proteins called the primosome. The primase, that is RNA polymerase, added to other proteins form a primosome. So this RNA primase makes short pieces of RNA primers that are recognized by DNA polymerase 3 to initiate replication. As DNA polymerase 3 exhibits outstanding proofreading capabilities which prevent it to initiate a polynucleotide strand synthesis. Therefore, it requires a primer, a short piece of RNA that it can recognize and elongate. This RNA primer is eventually removed by RNase and gap is filled by the DNA polymerase 1. The next protein that are essential for the replication are the single stranded binding proteins or the SSB proteins. The SSB proteins stabilize the single strands that thus preventing them to zip back together and form hairpin loops. Single stranded binding proteins are important to maintain the stability of the replication fork. Single stranded DNA is very labile or unstable, so these proteins bind to it while it still remains single stranded, and keep it from being degraded. The next enzyme is the ligase. The ligase enzyme catalyzes the formation of phosphodiester bond given an unattached but adjacent 3' OH and 5' phosphate. This can fill in the unattached gap left when the RNA primer is removed and filled in. DNA polymerase can recognize the bonds on the 5' of the primer, but ligase is needed to make the bond on the 3' end. Now let us discuss the mechanism of the DNA replication. As we have already known, the DNA synthesis is semi-conservative, that is, one of the parental strand is conserved and another strand is newly synthesized. DNA replication begins at certain unique and fixed point called the origin or the ori points. First, the DNA, the replication also needs a RNA primer, and of course it needs the nucleotide triphosphates for the elongation of the chain. First, the two enzymes, the first is the DNA topoisomerase and the next the DNA helicase bind to the origin points and induce the unwinding and separation of complementary strands of DNA double helix. This separation is known as the melting. Then unwinding of DNA produces Y-shaped replication forks. The DNA polymerase proceeds only in 5' to 3' direction. DNA polymerase require for their action, as we have discussed, the presence of a DNA template, a primer and 4 deoxynucleotide triphosphates. As the two strands separate, the bases are exposed and RNA polymerase or primase initiate the transcription of the 3' to 5' and generates a 10 to 16 nucleotide long RNA primer in 5' to 3' direction. The free 3' OH of this RNA primer provides the initiation point for the synthesis of new DNA strand. DNA polymerase 3 adds deoxyribonucleotides to the 3' OH group of last ribonucleotide of the RNA primer. Then DNA polymerase 3 progressively adds deoxyribonucleotides to the free 3' OH of this growing polynucleotide chain according to the base pairing rules, that is ATGC. Consequently, the replication of 3' to 5' strand of DNA molecule proceeds continuously. The DNA polymerase 1 catalyzes the removal of the RNA primers by its action of 5' to 3' exonuclease activity and its 5' to 3' polymerase activity. Because both strands of DNA molecule are antiparallel, that is, they run in opposite direction, this creates a primer. Problem: when the two strands unwind at replication fork, the leading strand, that is faces the DNA polymerase in correct 5' to 3' direction. So the synthesis of a long continuous complementary strand takes place. Whereas on the other strand, which is called as a lagging strand, this is not possible. Here the replication proceeds in a discontinuous way, synthesizing short segments of DNA. These short segments of DNA are always synthesized in 5' to 3' direction. These short discontinuous DNA segments were first discovered by T. Okazaki, and he found that the fragments of DNA were 1000 to 2000 nucleotide long. These fragments were called Okazaki fragments after their discovery. These are only 200 nucleotide long in the eukaryotes. DNA polymerase can only elongate a primer molecule. They cannot start a new chain by themselves. This poses a problem when initiating each Okazaki fragment. Which is solved by synthesizing a short segment of RNA that acts as the primer. Each Okazaki fragment starts with an RNA segment. RNA is used because it immediately provides a tag indicating that this part of molecule has not yet been subjected to proofreading mechanism and must be replaced. This segment is subsequently removed by repair enzymes. The gap is filled by the DNA polymerase and then joined to neighboring Okazaki fragment by DNA lipase to form a long polynucleotide chain. The rate of movement of replication fork in E. coli is about 10 to the power of 5 base pairs per minute. In eukaryotes, the polymerases are much less active and the rate ranges from 500 to 5000 base pair per minute. The replication in E. coli is terminated, which is signaled by specific sequences called TER elements. They serve as binding sites for protein. TUS. The TUS protein provides to TER element and stops helicase enzymes from unwinding DNA. That stops the movement of replication fork. Now, this is how the DNA polymerase initiates and elongates the DNA replication. First, it identifies the nucleotide or the base in the template strand, and then it brings the base pair or opposite base and it synthesizes a bond and creates a base pairing. So this is the polymerase activity that is carried out by the DNA polymerase enzyme. Then sometimes when a wrong base is incorporated, as you can see here, instead of thymine, the adenine is being incorporated. It does this excision repair mechanism and removes the adenine from the strand, and it incorporates the right, that is guanine strand here. So this is the excision repair or the repair mechanism that takes place in the DNA molecule. Now coming to the eukaryotic replication. The eukaryotic replication begins at different sites of origin. Replication takes place simultaneously at many sites along the entire length of chromosome. The DNA is replicated in smaller units which are called as the replicons. The size of replicons in eukaryote chromosomes are generally between 15 to 100 microns in length. Each replicant has its own origin of replication from where the replicating force moves bidirectionally. The replication fork travels away from each other until they meet a neighboring fork, and then the complete DNA gets replicated. This is how the replication takes place in the eukaryote. So it has many replicating forks. So we have discussed that the replication, DNA replication, is a semi-conservative method, and it starts at the unique points or unique origin points which are called as ori, and the DNA replication in eukaryotes is bidirectional, and DNA polymerase is one which catalyzes the DNA replication, and it needs a 3' hydroxyl primer to initiate the DNA replication, and DNA replication proceeds in 5' 3' direction, and in the other strand the DNA replication that is in the 3' 5' strand, the DNA replication is discontinuous and Okazaki fragments are formed.